Hey everyone, welcome to the Business of Dating live series and podcast. I am excited about this show tonight. Not just because it's about interracial dating and marriage, but because we have people who will be on that have different perspectives on interracial dating, which was surprising to me. So I'm excited just to bring in different thoughts and perspectives about the issue. If you don't know me by now, my name is Tamika Michelle Johnson, aka the Matchmaking Attorney. I am an attorney, publisher of Platinum Magazine, also owner of Platinum Connections, which is an exclusive matchmaking agency for successful professionals. If you are ever interested in any of our services, be sure to visit the website, uh, thematchmakingattorney.com. I also put it down at the bottom where we do an information session. We'll talk about the process, prospects, and pricing. So we're going to get started and bring on our guests in a few minutes and enjoy the show.
If you are single and tired of trying to navigate these dating streets, then be sure to tune into the Business of Dating live series and podcast, where yours truly, Tamika Michelle Johnson, aka the Matchmaking Attorney, will be joined by guests as we talk about how to date the right way as a successful professional in the 21st century. Join us live on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. on Facebook or YouTube, or catch the replay. And to reach us, simply visit thematchmakingattorney.com. See you soon.
All right. So I want to welcome our guest for today. Felisha, I'm going to ask you to take your mute button off.
All
There you
right.
go. This is Miss Felisha K, luxury love diva. She is a wonderful dating coach. She has been doing this for years, and she is into the luxury love. And I love that about her brand because she teaches women how to basically level up their dating, their prospects to have healthy relationships with quality men, because we are all quality women, right? Ladies, we're all quality women. We deserve the best. We sometimes get caught up in just dealing with certain types of men and kind of stay stagnant. But I love her philosophy, her training, what she teaches women. She's also a matchmaker now as well, which is, right up my alley. So with that, Felisha, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much, Tamika, for having me. I am excited to be here.
Great. So just like tell everyone how you even got into the coaching and matchmaking arena industry. And then we're going to talk a little bit about your background, because this is your topic a little bit personally, being in interracial marriage and dating and all that, and how you got there. I love your story as well. So I want everyone to hear all that. So first, tell us how you got into coaching and matchmaking.
Well, I'll say this, by trade, I'm a cosmetic chemist, but one of the things I've always loved is love. I believe that there is someone for everyone. And so over the years, just throughout my life, I've had people say, "You've had such successful relationships, at least long-term relationships, marriage and things like that. And do you know someone? Do you know someone?" So it kind of got to the point where I started teaching confidence and self-value and self-love and how to attract what you desire. And so I thought, relationship coaching at a high level just made sense for me. And so I just turned it into a full-time business.
Okay. And so how long have you been coaching?
I've been coaching for over 10 years.
Okay. Wow. So when I went to your website, I saw that you specialize in building strong relationships at the highest level, beginning with self-love. So, self-love is, it's important, but it's a generic term as well. So tell us a little bit about what self-love is, and when you're actually coaching clients, and what that actually looks like in relation to relationships.
Okay, so for me, I actually coach on self-value.
Okay.
And for me, I agree with you. Self love is very generic. I believe it's overused. But I know one thing: you have to have self value before you can even have self love. And so my company is actually High Value Lifestyle Academy.
Okay.
And what that means for me is valuing yourself. And so my motto is value yourself at the highest level in life and in love. That means also in business, for example, value your price tag,
Mhm.
value yourself enough to attract what you deserve and you desire. And so that comes with confidence. And if we don't value ourselves, then we're not going to attract partners that value us. And so we have to teach people how we like to be treated, but we have to start with us first. And so that for me is where I coach in the area of leveling up yourself to then attract what you desire and
Okay.
deserve.
Right, absolutely. That's first and foremost, and
Absolutely.
whatever package that looks like.
Hmm.
So you've been married twice, and we chatted, back and forth a few times, and both of your husbands were of another race other than black. So when you were dating before you got married, were you specifically looking to date men who were non-black, or other races specifically? Or how did that all kind of come together?
Okay, and so I'll say this. I have never had a preference. I don't have a preference whatsoever. My daughter's father happens to be black. I will say this, he's doing life in prison. He went to prison when I was 18 or she was 2. I was 18 years old. I was a teen mom, so I had her at 16. With that being said, when he went to prison, um, for domestic violence, I would say, that did not shape who I dated. It just turned out that I knew I did not want to be with someone that was going to be abusive. And so over the years, a couple years down the line, I would meet people. And like Whoopi Goldberg said, I date who likes me. And so
Mhm.
for whatever reason, people that were non-black, Caucasian men would be the ones to ask me out. And so being new to it, I'm like, okay, I will try this. So I go back 30 years. My first boyfriend was a Caucasian male. Right after my daughter's father went to prison, I dated him for 3 or 4 years. And then the next man that I met, I married. We dated for 2 years. We're engaged, and we were married for 17 years. He happened to be Caucasian. When we divorced, we still remained very good friends. But again, I date who likes me or who captures my heart. My husband now of 3 years also happens to be white. But one of the things I will say is I am the first black woman that either of them have ever dated. And so
Wow.
they're hooked. They're like, anything happened with us? I need a woman of color. That's all it is to it. So
Wow.
I see it as positive.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So where did you meet your husbands? Because a lot of women that I speak with and I have my sessions with them, I'm always saying, be open. Be
Right.
open to just different races, nationalities, and all that. So I asked them, have you dated outside your race? And a lot of women, black women, have not, but they say they're open to it. So it's kind of like they don't even know where to go. Like you had to be somewhere. I don't know if you were just kind of like out and about running errands in a certain area of town. But how did you meet your husbands or anyone that you dated
Well,
that
I would.
was non-black?
Okay. My first husband, we were married in 2000, met in 1998. I met him online, and this was when the dating sites were just starting. And I actually didn't even sign up for a dating site. There was some pop up that showed up that said, fill this out. So I just put my name, email address, and a little picture. And I said, I'm not going to do this. So I exited out. And for some reason, I must have my information must have gotten populated through a lot of different websites. One was Interracial Dating, one was like American Singles at the time. I don't even know if Match existed. But
Mhm.
my inbox, my emails were flooded with just various people wanting to date me. And I thought, I didn't even sign up for anything. So my first husband, he caught my eye. He lived locally, he lived in Denver, PhD, author, like scientist, all of these things. And I'm in my mid 20s at the time thinking, wow, this guy sounds really cool. This person can teach me something. So we
Mhm.
just started dating and fell in love. And I met him online. My second husband, who I'm married to now, we met professionally at a dinner party. But again, I believe that you need to be properly positioned to meet the type of people that you desire. And so over
Yes.
the years, I've leveled up my game in business and in life and in my network settings. And so I've been able to meet quality people of all races. He just happens
Right.
to be one of them.
Right. So I'm just going to put up a quick stat here about interracial marriage specifically. So
Love it.
basically, right now, 15% of Black men are married to non-Black women, but that means 85% of Black men are married to Black women. But the majority of the non-Black women that Black men are dating, they're white, and this is a study that came out in 2017. On the flip side, Black women are the least likely to marry non-Black men at 7%, and the ones that they do marry outside of their race. 4% of them are married to white men. But of all the races, Asians and Native Americans, which I thought was very interesting, Asians and Native Americans have the highest rates of interracial marriage, which I thought was very interesting.
Right.
So, do you have? Is anyone else like in your family have they dated interracially, or were you the first one that really brought anyone around that was of a different race?
It's very interesting. I would say no, but I think I led the pack of the younger generation. I have a very large family, but my mother's brother, my uncle Larry, I remember growing up, he had Aunt Pam, he had a white, blonde head, blue eyed woman. We
Mhm.
loved her. And they had two biracial children who are in their 30s now, 40s probably. But we saw Aunt Pam, and Aunt Pam was one of us. Even though she was blonde head, blue eyed, we loved her. Um, that just kind of made us as a family collectively just open minded. But for me, I think the younger generation, when they saw me dating outside of my race and being comfortable, I think they became comfortable. So I have um, cousins, male cousins, who date outside their race. I have a couple of female cousins who are married to white men, but I do also have cousins, black cousins, my sister included. They're just not comfortable dating outside their race. So we're just all over. It just really is up to the individual. I just think
Mhm.
I made it a little bit more comfortable for
Okay.
some of the women to be open minded.
Okay. So what discussions have you had maybe with Black women? And you said some of your cousins or sisters are not comfortable dating outside their race. What are some of the discussions, not necessarily with your family members, but with clients? Like, what is the comfort level? Like, what makes them not comfortable? What are some of the reluctancies that they have, perhaps, in dating outside of their race?
It's different. They feel like the person that's outside of their race may not understand them as black women. My sister specifically, we had this conversation today. She said it's to do for her with loyalty. She does not want to date outside of her race because she wants to be loyal to her black man.
Okay.
And it's really interesting. It's all across the board. But I will say this, my matchmaking agency, I am very specific with the clients that I take. Males are my clients of all races, but the women that are in my database are women of color who are open to
Right.
dating outside of their race and inside of their race. And so I definitely want to attract men who desire women of color. That includes black men as well, which sometimes you hear black men say they don't want to date within their race. That's a statistic. That's all over the internet as well.
Mm.
So it's I don't know. It's very interesting, I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. And so it's interesting that no, it's interesting that you say that some women, I know some women do say that they don't think that a man or a person of another race will understand them. And I'm
Right.
like, well, Black men don't understand Black women either. So
No.
I don't know if that's a really good answer because because there are challenges in dating. As Black women or everyone. So to say like a specific race may not understand you, I'm kind of like, well, people in our own race don't understand us.
Well, let
You
me
know?
let me clarify that then. Okay, I'll give
Okay.
you my example because my husband, uh, culturally, that's what I meant. So black women
Okay.
don't believe that another race will understand them culturally. So, for example, my husband currently, he was married 23 years before we met. So he was married to a white woman, obviously, um, and for him, it was natural. She's soft in terms of maybe more on the passive side. Me, I'm new to him. I am a new experience for him. And so if I have a matter of fact tone, or if there's something specific, if I'm a little bit more bold and forward, that's new for him. He's like, wow, this is very different, but I love it. I'm not used to that. You say what you have to say. I love that. And so some people, and I will say this, including black men, will sometimes say that black women are too strong, naggy,
Mhm.
bossy, whatever the case may be. But they, grow up with black mothers. They understand that, right? But Caucasian people, they aren't necessarily raised that way, where, they're not necessarily raised with women like black women with regards to that strength, that because we have to go through a lot. We go through a lot. So with that being said, we are usually going to be a little bit stronger. And so culturally, that's what they're saying, that they may not understand what a black woman needs because they are a non-black man.
Right. I got you. And
Hmm.
so before I go any further, anyone who is watching, you want to, if you have a comment, put it in the comments. If you want to join live, let me know. The link is in the comments so you can join us live and give your opinion on this issue. Before I bring in another guest on here really quick, I want to say for me, interracial dating was different. I had one black boyfriend. I'm sorry, one white boyfriend. I had plenty black ones. I actually haven't had plenty of black boyfriends. I only had three. But anyway, I digress. I had one white boyfriend, but it was when I was still a teenager, and he didn't last any longer than the other ones. So,
Right. Exactly.
but what I will say, and I dated a couple other people going out with them, not relationship wise, but just kind of dated um men of other races, nationalities, that kind of thing. And I did notice a difference in treatment. And I don't know, this, might be your experience. You can say if it is or not. But I did find that non-black men were more open emotionally, and they were more comfortable, and they, seemed to treat me better from the jump, from the start, where a lot of black men were more reserved, or it takes a little while for them to get comfortable or to be affectionate, that kind of thing, just to kind of emotionally connect. I found that the non-black ones, it was just a little bit, I got treated a little bit better, like earlier on. Now, I don't know how that would have, ended like long term, but at least initially I noticed that. And I was telling my husband about that not too long ago. Because there was one point where I swore off black men. Like I was like 22, 23, something like that. Clearly it did not last long. So any decisions you make at 20 something, don't hold that. It might change. But
Yeah.
what was your experience? Did you experience anything like that?
I did. I would say yes. I would say that the white men did treat me, I don't want to say better, but I would say that I felt like they valued me more.
Mhm.
But I will have to say I don't have a whole lot of experience dating black men because I met my daughter's father, for example, when I was 15 years old. And the thing about this, I didn't know he had just gotten out of prison.
Okay.
He was paroled. And so I was 15 and he was 23. But I think, it was not a very good experience, for me in that particular relationship. So that's all I have to compare it to. But I will say, since dating outside of my race, I've only had a couple of relationships because they resulted in marriage. But even being married, there's people that'll flirt with you in the grocery store, or ask you, how are you? Are you married? Are you single? I was still never approached by black men. That's the point. So we're going 30 years. 30 years, and I've just not really had any black men approach me. married, or if I were single, there was a time I was separated and they still weren't approaching me. It was the white men that I found that valued me, that were trying to show me that they desired me. They wanted to treat me well. They wanted to take me out, wine me, dine me, and treat me very, very well. So that's been my experience. So I definitely don't want to generalize and assume that, men of another race are better, because I can't say that. I
Right.
don't have a whole lot of experience, but I do have a lot of Black female friends that have experience. And I'll say there is a difference. I've
Yeah.
noticed the difference for them. Absolutely.
Right. And it's, yeah, definitely
Yeah.
not to say that black men don't treat you well. I love
Oh,
my
yeah.
husband and he treats
Oh,
me,
right.
very well. So yeah, I don't want to generalize, but I can say, but it took him a minute to come around to like the emotional part, right? To be like,
Right.
oh, it's okay. And he's comfortable, where I found men of other races, they would do that a little bit earlier on. They would show like affection earlier.
Right. Right.
Not just the physical, like, sex, that kind of thing, but like just, affection. Um, which I it definitely was a stark difference, but very, very, very interesting. So I am going to bring on this. He came on, Shamari. He came on last week, impromptu. So this time we actually talked about it a couple days ago, and he knew what the topic was, and he was like, "I have something I'd like to say about it." And
Love
so,
it.
and I was like, "Well, come on, please do share." So
Oh,
I am
please.
going to bring Shamari on. So he's got a picture this week. We had nothing last week, so. The
Oh,
picture is an improvement, Shamari. Welcome back.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Glad to be back.
hi,
Good.
Shamari.
Hey, how are you?
Well, great picture.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Yeah, so you've heard the conversation behind scenes. And so give us your perspective or opinion on interracial dating and marriage, if you will.
Absolutely. So I want to start off by saying that, I'm a firm believer in an institution of love and marriage, and I definitely think that you should date the person that you're actually in love with, regardless of the race. However, I will say that I think a lot of times in our community, um, we typically are a little concerned about someone outside of our race being able to relate with them just quite naturally. Because I think that, especially when we're dealing with what Black people have to go to in terms of racism, things of that nature, a lot of other races just have not had to walk a mile in our shoes, if you will. And so I think just naturally, people want to be able to have open conversations with people that get it, that have actually gone through what they've gone through, the struggle, if you will. And I think that oftentimes that's difficult if you're talking about dating someone outside of your race. There's people who can understand things because they may have had the experience of dating someone outside of their race, or they may be a little bit more in tuned. But I think that it's going to be very difficult to find someone that can truly relate to everything that you've gone through. So I think that's one of the benefits of dating within your race, especially in the Black community. So that's kind of my take on it.
Love it.
Okay. So, Felicia, I'm going to ask you this. Are you able to have the conversations, open conversations about struggles that you may have or had specifically as a Black woman? Are you able to have those conversations with your husband or previously with your ex or anyone else that you dated?
I have, and fortunately, they have been very intrigued and open minded to understanding my perspective and understanding what I have to say, and sort of empathizing and not dismissing. And for example, my husband now, he says after being with me, he is aware of his white privilege, more so because he's with me, he's with my large Black family. He grew up in an area where there wasn't a whole lot of Black people. So it's like a full on culture shock for him, but he's taken it on and he loves it all. But he loves to sit back and watch us interact. And he's like, "You guys are so loving and so strong and so kind. But I think about everything that you go through. I see my white privilege. I could be walking down the street with a 6 pack of beer. The cop stopped me and asked me if I need a ride. A black man does that. And he's probably battered, beaten, and thrown in jail because they swear he stole the beer or whatever. So it's really interesting.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm really glad that I have had relationships where they're open minded and they're not dismissive of what we've gone through and what we continue to go through.
Right. So, Shamari, I know that you're married. Do you think that your wife understands everything that you go through as a black man? Those challenges? Can she really relate just, from a gender difference? Because I'll tell you this. When my husband and I got together, he like constantly he makes references, sometimes in a joking way, but if he hears something, he's kind of like, oh, I'm going to get arrested. Or, the cops are coming. They're going to take me, like that kind of thing. Now, he grew up in LA. He grew up where he didn't necessarily go to school or public schools. He got shipped off to private school. So he had a really good education. So he was like one of a few black people, but in his community, um, it was a little bit different. My husband, he's a computer scientist. He's like straight lace, all of that. He's not like breaking or bending any rules whatsoever. And the only times he's had guns pulled on him was by law enforcement. And so it used to really kind of like bother me because that wasn't my experience, right? So I grew up in an all white neighborhood. I didn't really have many issues. We had just a handful of black people in our school where I grew up. So I even couldn't identify with what he was saying. It just was not my reality. So I'll go back. That was kind of a long way of me saying, Shamar, do you think that, your wife can understand, those struggles that you may have as a black man?
Yeah, I mean, in my case, I'm, for the record, I am married to a black woman, and she definitely understands the struggle. I think when you first meet someone, you can always understand the struggle more. But for the most part, she understood it. We never really had that issue where she didn't understand. The beauty of it all is that as we have grown together, she understands it even more. But the great thing about it is it's also an opportunity for me to understand the black woman's struggle as well, because I think it works both ways. And so we've grown together. I think we've seen situations. We've had unique situations happen where whether it be, situations professionally, like maybe, you missed a promotion or things of that nature, or even as just kind of things we've seen in the news with racism, Black Lives Matter movement, things of that nature. So we're growing, we understand each other, but we automatically from the beginning had an understanding, and it just has grown deeper from that point. So it's just only enhanced from the beginning.
Okay. So, Felisha, I know when we kind of chatted before, you said basically, and you as well, you said earlier today, you didn't go out looking for a particular type of man, but you really value, and you really value high quality men and putting yourself in those situations, or women putting themselves in those situations. Tell us a little bit more about that. What things do you suggest to women if they're open to dating outside their race? What suggestions, what do you do? What do you tell your clients, like where to meet men, where to put them? If they're not going to secure you as their matchmaker, because there's some people like they're interested, but they're just not there. And so I always give tips to people like what you can do where you can meet people. You want to surround yourself again with the type of people that you want to be with. What do you suggest to clients?
My clients are professional women
Mhm.
typically, so they are educated, they are over 35, and so they've they're mature. So one of the things I say is certainly have an open mind, because a lot of these women are at great networking parties and conferences, conventions, dinner parties, and things like that with people of all races. But what I always suggest is have an open heart and an open mind and talk to everyone. And don't be shy if there's someone who is outside of your race that is talking to you. Be open. Because a lot of people outside of a lot of men that are non-black want to talk to a black woman, but if she is closed off and wearing that kind of having a guarded type of demeanor about her, she won't appear as approachable. So, what I always just say, really, it's more about you. Just open up and be approachable to have a conversation, and you might be pleasantly surprised. Um, you might start to establish a little bit of chemistry with someone and be intrigued by not just their race so much, just what they have to say. And then the race kind of just falls into the background because you might like what their core values are about whatever it is, marriage, life, career, health, well, whatever that conversation is. So I just basically say have an open mind. Now, for me, my husband, he owns a wealth management firm. He also is a private pilot, so we have an airplane. And with that being said, we're in communities of people that I've not been exposed to until I met my husband. And with that being said, when you're around that, you're going to naturally attract those kinds of people in those communities. And so I will suggest, go to country clubs, go to private clubs. If you have someone in your life that's going to invite you to some of those, be open minded and make sure you go because you never know who you're going to meet. I don't encourage women of color to necessarily date outside their race, but there's so many women of color who say that for them, they don't feel like black men desire them. I've had a lot of women tell me that. So that's when I say, you're not going, don't feel like you need to settle if you're not getting what you need. Be open minded, not just to Italian. My first husband was Native American and white, or is Native American and white. I call him my husband because my husband and my husband are really good friends now. We were had a barbecue last week and they're together.
I saw the pictures.
Yeah, I have a husband, a husband, and a could have been, and one's Italian. No, they, they were, and they're all friends. It's the funniest thing. I'm actually gonna do something around that, but the common denominator is me being open-hearted, open-minded, and loving and kind to everyone, which makes it comfortable for them to all coexist and be cool.
Yeah, yeah.
A
Someone's
little
going.
off
A lot of
topic,
people
but
need. A lot of people need to take that class right there because they can't be in the same room with an ex. I'm going to come back to you, Felisha, but Shamari, I do want to ask you this because you do have children. And if they were to date someone outside their race, would you have a discussion with them, or and before they start dating, are you going to have that talk with them about finding someone of the same race or just those differences? How are you, since I know you understand, or you feel like there's just better relatability between dating someone within the same race. How would you, or how are you going to teach your kids or talk to them about it?
Well, thank you for answering that question. So for myself, first and foremost, as I've said, it's all about finding someone who loves you and values you for who you are, first and foremost. However, I think what we've found is that people are just not open to different options. And for instance, you may have maybe a black man who has decided that he's only going to date outside of his race, or maybe a white person or what have you. And they have ideas there in their minds of what they think they're going to get. And that's kind of all they look for. So I think it's very important to be open. However, I think one thing that we do not do in the Black community is that we do not discuss the positives of actually dating within our race. I think our race is very unique, where we're really the only race of people that will focus more in on, well, be open, you can date anyone. I don't see that or feel that happens as much in other nationalities. And so I definitely want to make sure they understand that there are some benefits to dating within your race. Because when you choose someone that you're going to date, obviously the love aspect is important, but as well, there's economic reasons for it, right? You're going to be sharing, money, different financial resources. And so there's some benefits to that. Just especially when you're talking about staying within your own community, generational wealth within the Black community. These things are very important. I just think that we just look at it from just the I'm in love, but well, what happens when you get married and you have kids? And so that's kind of the things I would teach my kids. So the whole spectrum, not just hey, find someone for you, but look at the whole pie, if you will, because it's all very
Yeah.
important.
So, Felicia, I'll ask you this: has it been your experience with your husband? Could have been. We'll say them all. um, it just basically, I don't know if you even had the conversation with them, but do you know if just in their upbringings, if it was even suggested that they date outside their race, or was it just kind of when they brought you home, it was kind of like, okay, she's a beautiful person, she's nice, she's a good caring person, or do you know if it was actually encouraged for them to date outside their race, or is it something that just happened from what you experienced?
From what I experienced, I know my first husband uh, grew up on an Indian reservation, even though, Native American and white. His mom was white, his dad was Native American. One of the things he told me, though, is that they really weren't supposed to date outside of their race, and so his family would not have approved. Now, when I met him, both parents had passed away, so I never had a chance to meet his parents. But he did say that he always loved this woman of color in high school, but he knew he could never bring her home, and that really stuck with him over the years. So he was so happy to have me. But my husband now, my current husband, uh, Caucasian, his family, he said that his grandparents were very racist. They would not have approved. But his brother adopted two biracial children, a boy and a girl, about 20 years ago as babies. His brother and his wife, both white, adopted two biracial children. And so it started to soften the family. And so when I met my current husband's parents, who are still alive, I've got to tell you, they have been the most kind, loving, and warm people because they fell in love with me as a person, and they didn't judge me by my skin. But I do believe it's because they had biracial grandchildren and had an opportunity to sort of warm up to the idea.
Okay. And so I
Yeah,
just kind of put that stat back up on there because you mentioned that your first husband
my husband.
that he was Native American and white, but
Yeah.
the stats show that Asians and Native Americans have the highest rates of interracial marriage. So I think that's interesting because you're saying you stated that it was not encouraged. It basically was kind of discouraged to date outside of their race. So I think that's really interesting.
Well, particularly black. They could probably date
Okay.
white. That's fine
Okay.
because my ex-husband did marry a white woman.
Gotcha.
And they have children. I don't, by the way, for the record, I don't have children with any of my husbands or my husband. And the one thing I'll say about my husband is there was a 20-year age difference. So he was 20 years older than me. My current husband is only 3 years older than me. Um, but both of them had previous relationships and children. I have one daughter, and her dad is black.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I wish we had just another couple on here, especially from, a man that was of another race, just to kind of give his perspective. So if you're watching, someone, give them a link real quick or, or to comment on that. So I think the next thing would probably be in your matchmaking. What are the things that, or coaching, what are the things that you tell clients specifically that they need to do or work on in order to attract that high value man, regardless of what his race is?
They need to work on being a high value person themselves.
Okay.
with regards to valuing themselves. And so really I model my business after my life and how I am. I consider myself a manifesting woman. And by that I mean, um, even as a kid, my mom would say, you just have this imagination, and whatever it is that you think about, you attract. So I feel like when you're aligned with what you desire and open minded and open hearted, that is naturally drawn to you. Now, I've been homeless. I was a teen mom, and my daughter's father's in prison. However, I grew up seeing what I didn't want. And so I would say this, being open hearted and open minded, I actually attracted mentors. I feel like if we don't have mentors in front of us, we need to seek them out. So I've met my first mentors when I was 21. They were billionaires. And so I moved through my life just open hearted and open minded. I manifested my second husband. When I got divorced or was getting divorced, I saw someone that came to me, and I said, there's someone out there that has these attributes, these qualities. He's a man of faith. There's a lot of different things that I had. There was not money. Man of faith. He would be faithful, love me, value me, and he would be financially secure. When I met my husband, he was all of those things, but I didn't know it at the time until we got to know each other. And I said, this is the person. And I even saw an airplane, and he happened to have one. So
Jesus,
that's what
happen to have an
Sure.
airplane.
Well, yeah, and he proposed to me, and I always imagined myself being married in Europe. He proposed to me in Rome. We were married in Venice. And
Okay.
with that being said, it was me aligning my spirit, heart, and mind with not necessarily what I wanted material wise, but what I needed and what I felt I deserved. But I also went out of my way to make sure that I was that person. I always tell my clients, you can't be out here with this checklist looking for a dime and you're a rusty nickel. You have to be someone that's of quality as well. It's not about the wealth. I think I talk about healthy and wealthy relationships. And when I speak of wealth, I don't speak of wealth from the standpoint of money. I speak of wealth basically from the root of the word wealth, which is well being. You are someone that pours into your partner. You are a quality person. You encourage them. And so if you want that, you need to also be that. Therefore, you then will attract that an equal partner. So that's what I help women understand is have that self-value and align themselves first so that they can attract someone who will value them as well.
Right. So I'm going to come back to you in a second. So Shamari, I just want to make sure because I'm going to shift gears a little bit and talk a little bit more about mentorship and your clients and all that. Felisha, Shamari, is there anything that you wanted to add as far as the interracial dating and the and your perspective on it?
Yeah, I actually did have a question. I
Okay.
actually saw recently, this has been trending on the news where Sesame Street Place, I guess the amusement park that features Sesame Street characters, it's been on the internet because some of the black characters that portray the Sesame Street characters were accused of not excuse me, embracing saying hello to some of the black kids there. So it's all on the news now. And so I guess my question is, I think that especially when you have children, the topic of racism is tough. And we've already acknowledged that, we have people, especially in the Black community, that are afraid to date outside because they feel like someone won't relate to them. So I guess my question is for you two is what recommendations do we have for those who may want to date outside their race, but what recommendations do we have for those folks of finding someone that's very sensitive to the struggle of the Black community, so that they that way they'll be more comfortable or actually trying to do that? Like, what's the recommendations we have for those people who are willing to try it, but need someone that's going to be very sensitive to our unique struggle?
I ha-
Felisha,
I
you
I have I guess I'm just beaming because It just so happens what I would say, and I'm going to speak through my daughter who actually just received her master's degree in social justice. In fact, she studied under Patrice, who is the co-founder of Black Lives Matter. My daughter is a social advocate. She is a Black woman, and she works with children. And she's also an actress. So her bachelor's, she has a bachelor of fine arts in acting. And she is out in these communities consistently with people of all races that support Black Lives Matter, that support Black people, that support Black causes. And so I would say surround yourself with those people that are out here with us in these streets,
Mhm.
who believe in the social justice, who are going to be out at the Martin Luther King parades and the parades and the Juneteenths and things like that, because then that's where you're going to find the people who are empathetic because they're out there with us. So don't go off into white communities thinking you're going to find somebody sensitive. Go out to places, seek people who are out there with us, uh, trying to help us fight for a cause or make change. So that would be my suggestion. That would be probably what my daughter would say as well.
Okay. And let me just kind of speak on that a little bit. So you had your daughter, and so she was raised in the same household as you and your first husband. Did she have any challenges or any issues growing up, with her identifying as Black or being Black, but having a Caucasian stepfather?
No, she didn't because we have a strong Black family. I have a very large family. But one of the things is it's because of me. I never changed. I'm a Black woman all day. So I never what we call code switching. You know, you have to code switch sometimes depending on who you're with your Black people. You're going to talk a certain way or act a certain way. When you're around white people, you tend to sort of back it up a little bit. You're a little more proper. I I was always the same. So I never showed her anything different. And so my partners, my husband, my first husband, um, was just family. He loved her. She loved him. Her godfather was a really good friend of mine who was actually also white. He helped me basically raise her when I was in school. He would babysit and all of these various things. So she just no, she was not affected whatsoever. She never had any issues.
Did
Mm-mm.
she date interracially, or did she just date Black men?
She was open-minded. She had Black boyfriends, white boyfriends, and the white one, top it off, is the one that was in jail. He went, but this was like he had like juvie, I should say. He was like an eighth grade boyfriend. He had probably some stuff at home which made him act out. Ended up in juvenile detention. But the worst of the boys that she dated was the white one. He was the troubled one. But she's dated Black, white, Hispanic. So she's very comfortable and doesn't have a preference whatsoever. She's very open minded.
That's awesome. So I
Yeah.
have to say, I briefly saw the headline that you were speaking of, Shamari, with Sesame Place, but I did not click on it because I was like, oh, well, they're just doing Sesame Place as opposed to Sesame Street. So I didn't read it. So I'll have to go back and see what that is all about. But I think for me, the suggestion that I would get, especially because of the women that I work with, it's going to be, again, just surrounding yourself with the type of people that do what you want them to do. They have the certain careers that they're looking for, certain income levels. And so as Felisha was saying earlier, so if you're going to maybe go into a country club, the biggest suggestion that I give women is go to a conference that is outside of your industry. And because usually when we go to conferences within our industries, we know a lot of people, and we're like, well, I don't want anybody talking about me. I don't want anybody in my business type deal. So go to, a conference, maybe like full of doctors. There's, conferences everywhere. They don't register for the conference, but go and stay at the host hotel. So when they're done doing what they're doing during the day, you go down to the lobby, you go to the restaurant, whatever, and you start mingling. That does take a certain amount of confidence and being comfortable with talking to different people. And so my thing is, yeah, so it's not necessarily a race thing. Be open, as Felisha said, but surrounding yourself with the type of people that you want to be around. And some of them may come in, just different races, different colors, different shapes, different everything. And that's what I would say. Just, for me, um, I grew up in a predominantly white community. And so when I moved from Connecticut to Georgia, when I came to Georgia, it was a culture shock for me. When I moved to Atlanta, I was like, whoa, there's a lot of black people here. But I would not change it for anything, and I would not go anywhere else. I mean, I love Atlanta. And I think it does have some diversity, and I think that if you're in a place like Atlanta, you can go to different places and expose yourself to different types of people. And even like when you have young kids, for me, it's sometimes just important just to whatever their activities are. Maybe they go to a school that may be more predominantly black. Maybe it's more mixed with different cultures, but whatever it is, their activities, make sure that they're having those activities with a diverse group of people, because that's something that you can control. You may not be able to control like your home school, where they go to school, but their activities you can definitely um, have some influence there to get them exposed to different types of races or different races.
I love that.
Does that kind of answer it, Shamari? Shamari, did we lose you?
Yeah, I'm here. So I can. I was on mute. No, that's great. I appreciate those answers.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Shamari, I'm gonna put you in the background again. I hope that you will join us every once in a while, because we got really, really good responses from your visit with us last week, and I'm sure we will this week as well. So that you'll pop in every once in a while, give us some of that Shamari perspective. But thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me. Have a great
All
night.
right, we'll see you soon. You too.
Thank you, Shamari.
So, Felisha, I want to get back to something that you said.
What I say?
at- yeah, which
I said a
one?
lot. Yeah, which one?
So, and I was going to ask this earlier. So, you went from being very young, being in an abusive relationship, and I can only imagine just the switch that would have to occur, the mentality shift, the mindset shift that would have to take place in order for go from that to Miss Felicia the Diva. Like, how did you? Because what you said is that you got mentors. You had billion-dollar mentors, billionaire mentors. First of all, where you find a billionaire mentor? Where did you find yours? That's for everyone else who's listening. It's a little bit younger. Needs a mentor.
Oh, oh uh, being properly positioned to meet them. No, I guess I'm trying to figure which question would you like me to answer? Are you saying how did I go from having an abusive partner to finding billionaire mentor, or I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, yeah. How did you go? Yeah, how did you do that? Because I would think there was a mindset shift. There's a totally different
Oh,
demographic of a person or people.
yeah.
They're
Well,
different.
I think really what it was when I talk about high value and valuing yourself. One of the things I know I can identify with is not being valued, uh, being treated low value, or cheated on, beat on, and all of those things. Yes, I was a teenager when that happened, but it still shaped me because I was treated so badly and so broken. Uh, but I knew that I wanted to make a shift, and I believe really my daughter was the reason, is because I said I'm never going to be with anybody who hits me or treats me badly ever again. So my daughter's father, when she was 2, he was sentenced to 3 life sentences, 75 years in prison, not just for beating me and nearly killing me, but he also apparently was an Aurora rapist. I I live in Denver, Colorado. This happened in Denver. And anyway, I threw the book at him. Interestingly enough, he served 32 years and he may be released in December. So I'm getting ready to go through some things that are going to be a little uncomfortable, but I'm comfortable with being uncomfortable because I'm the person he believes put him there, and he's very resentful. But with that being said, I I purposely moved forward in my life from a positive standpoint, saying I know what I've been through, I know where what I want for myself and for my daughter. And so just through the years, I would network, meet people. And so my billionaire mentor, actually, I met at a shopping center while I was shopping. I actually was shopping, and he just happened to be in a department store shopping as well. And we struck up a conversation. I didn't know he was a billionaire at the time. It turns out he was from Austria, and was saying that he and five other partners had just moved to the city. They had I don't want to say the kind of company, but it was like a gaming industry, I'll just say that. And that they all put their money together and they were, building this business. And I thought, I'm naturally curious entrepreneur at heart. I'm like, well, I'd love to know more about that. That's exciting. I'm so excited. He goes, yeah, let's have lunch sometime. So we had lunch and we started talking and became really, really good friends. And he'd share stuff with me about his business. He would share just their first IPO, all of these things. And at my little young mind at the time, I'm 21, maybe even 20, and I'm just soaking it all in because I'm like, I want to learn. I want to learn. I that was on this quest for knowledge. So I've always lived my life moving forward, attracting people that would teach me something. And I've always liked older men. So that's probably why my first husband was 20 years older. That wasn't purposeful. It's just that I wasn't necessarily attracted to his age. I was attracted to his brain. He was very, very smart. My husband now, very, very smart. I'm very, very smart. But the point is that I just have been able to attract people to sort of fill me up with knowledge and information to just better me. And to this day, me and my billionaire friend are still friends. And I just matched him in my agency. He was my first billionaire, but he introduced me to a couple of other billionaires who are in my agency. So I work with high net worth clients on purpose, but these are clients who like women of color. These guys are German. They love women of color. I have Italians. They love women of color. I have black men. They love women of color. And I'll be honest, I'll have to say, my goal is to attract as many black men as I can that desire women of color.
Right.
I want to serve the women of color who actually want to date within their race, but they just don't feel like the men that are the same race want them. That's just been really the common story that I've heard.
Mm-hmm.
Quality anyway. I mean, you can walk down the street and somebody's whistling, and the minute you don't say something, you're getting called at your name. You know
Right.
what I mean? So that's what, anyway, I think I got off subject, but
That's a whole nother subject. So I think that's great. I think that's amazing. And so if anyone who is watching, ladies, if you are single and you're looking for $1 billion, $1 million men, check Felisha out. I have her IG on the bottom of the screen. Is Felisha the Diva. Are there other places where people can connect with you?
right. Yes. I am in a huge branding situation right now. I have a whole team, and you'll see me at Luxury Love Diva on Instagram. And you'll have access to me at FeliciaK.com, with all of the information that you need to potentially become a client in my database for my matchmaking company, as a male or female, my coaching programs. I have High Value Lifestyle Academy and actually Luxury Love Academy as well. So there's a lot of great things that'll be coming to FeliciaK.com. So I would check me out there.
Okay, and I'll definitely put your information in the show notes if you're watching this. On YouTube, you'll see it. If you're on Facebook, go to YouTube and you'll have all of Felisha's information. I think it is great and amazing what you're doing. I know we both have different backgrounds from what we're doing now. We're very smart ladies. So I love what you're doing. So thank you for coming on. Next week, we will be talking about what men and women don't understand about one another, because there's a lot of miscommunication, thoughts, and perspectives that we have that are just not aligning with one another. So we're going to have that discussion next week and see how we can sift through this miscommunication that we're having between the genders. Oh, one last question. Do you work with clients all over the country, world, or is it just in your area?
My clients are global.
Okay.
Yes, they're all over the world.
Okay. So I just want to make sure that if they're on one side of the country, they can still be a client of yours and be matched.
Absolutely.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We will see you guys next week. If you want to learn more about Platinum Connections, you can look up the matchmakingattorney.com, and we will see you next Wednesday. Have a good evening. Bye.
Bye.